sir. Hello, my co-author. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, co-author?
I'm very excited. As usual, Association Transformation has some big news. Again, if we had sound effects, this would be where the drum roll would pop
Uh-huh.
in.
Uh-huh. I
But
always feel under such undue pressure to find these sound effects. And I'm not doing
but
it deliberately. Go on.
big announcement. Summer 2025 release. I know there's lots of movie blockbusters. This is kind of let's call it the association blockbuster, white paper blockbuster of the summer. We're releasing today. It's out there. Our new white paper, Restoring Trust and Expertise, and the seminal role that membership organizations play in an age of skepticism. I mean, this is heavy stuff. This is powerful stuff. I'm excited. I read this and I learned and I got to research and we wrote about history. I learned a lot about where membership associations came from and what their original roles were in the 1800s and 1900s. And we've talked a lot about crisis and how our elected officials, our institutions have burned us and have burned the trust that civilization has had in them and where associations can be the bridge. I think this is important, and I don't think this is becoming any less relevant. We've been talking about this for a year and
Yeah.
finally now have it together and it's out there for everyone. And I can't wait to hear what people think. But this new white paper is not going to be something that gathers dust. This is only going to become more, and I say this from an American perspective, the challenges of truth and sources and where you get your information and what are your elected leaders are saying. This is only making, I believe, the opportunity for associations and membership organizations that much more necessary and better to be a credible voice, to be
Mm-hmm.
the place that holds professions accountable, experts accountable, and to be a unbiased place to advance social discussions.
I think it's
Sorry, that was a
interesting.
really long
Wow.
intro, everyone.
Wow.
Welcome to
Wow.
Association Transformation, the podcast, episode 149.
We've published a white paper. Read it. Thank you very much. Have a
There you
lovely
go,
day.
signing off.
I think it's no, no. I think you've summed up though in that introduction. I think you've summed up, a major issue that is has been impacting the membership environment for such a long time. We ummed and ahed when we were writing the white paper. We ummed and ahed about the title. Is it over
Yeah.
egg in the pudding? But actually, I think
I didn't even really know what that meant. So I went along with whatever you wanted.
I think it's not an understatement to talk about the seminal role that membership organizations have because fundamentally, at the very heart of a membership organization is this principle of expertise,
Yeah.
of specialist knowledge, skills, um, expertise in which somebody places their trust.
Yeah.
And for me, and yes, you're talking from a US perspective. For me, this has been something that I way back in 2017, just post in the months in the I think it was early 2017, in the sort of 6 months after the UK had voted to leave the European Union, a senior member of the government that was responsible for that disaster, um, came out. Yeah, there's no delay where my political stripes are on that one. Came out and said the public has had enough of experts. and and it just I mean and it just I mean it was a massive populist statement, simple as that.
Yeah.
It was a populist
Yeah.
statement, and it resonated. And in the years, and of course it was at the same time Trump 0.10 was kicking off in 2017 was when his tenure
Yeah.
started the first time around, wasn't it? So it was at that kind of start of that period where these populists messages around expertise and specialists
Yeah.
began to sort of erode confidence in all
Yeah.
sorts of professions, in all sorts of aspects of life, and
Hmm.
actually to the point where you're right. We're now working and we live in a socio-political environment that is predicated on a culture of distrust. It's
Well,
almost it's almost a
it's not
given.
shocking we got here. I mean,
No,
I'm actually
yeah.
shocked it didn't come sooner. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about
Mm-hmm.
that 2016, 2017 window of time. I mean, that's when I first heard phrases like fake news. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
when I think the era of influencers really started to take hold. You know, truth and your truth and my truth, and you know, this bastardization of debate, which is
Mm-hmm.
what we've
Mm-hmm.
seen occur. Being credible now just seems to mean you have self-identified as an expert, or you have the most followers, or
Mm-hmm.
you're the loudest person shouting from your soapbox.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I am terrified for consumers. I'm terrified for the electorate. I am terrified for consumers of professional services. How do any of us um, trust what we read, what we see, what we buy, what our, you know, the professionals, those with letters after
Yeah.
their names,
Yeah.
how do we trust what they say? And I love my favorite part of the white paper, because it's so rare in white papers, is the case studies that we
Mm-hmm.
give around
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
organizations that in many cases have been around for a very long time, who had historic mandates to elevate and secure the integrity of a profession, whether that be legal, whether that be medical, whether that be engineering, you know, the things that our civilization depend on and are built upon. The government
Absolutely.
can't do that. The government can should have, you know, has never
Doesn't
done
need
that.
no, the government hasn't ever done it. I think that's a really important point there, actually, is that actually if you think about, the origins of trade bodies, professional
Yeah,
organizations, membership organizations, it's all about driving um, standards, confidence, awareness. It's all about ensuring people have. It's all about ensuring people have trust or in a product, in a
yeah,
service, in a skill set. You go right back to when, way back when, back in the medieval times, even, you're in the UK, well, it wouldn't be that then, but, in England, you'd have been having these medieval guilds that were all built around these guilds were all built around recognizing, acknowledging that individuals had a certain set of expertise and they could be trusted to
yeah,
do a really good
yeah,
job. And it just has grown and grown from that. 19th century, lots of socio-economic drivers have driven the need to have improvements in standards, in quality, in safety, and then throughout the 20th century, we saw then membership organizations, trade associations, professional bodies have all morphed into the sort of cultural stewardship, if you like. They became publishers of professional journals, um, shaped or published and have shaped ethical codes of practice. By extension, then they've influenced the public narratives around what is good, what can be trusted, what is of a high enough quality that I am safe in using this product or service,
right,
uh, uh, or not. And actually,
right.
so I
It
think,
was a quasi endorsement. It was a
yes,
quasi
yes,
validation of someone's expertise. I don't even want to use that word, but you know, knowledge, professionalism, and commitment to a
yes,
code of conduct.
yes, absolutely. But then what we've seen, I think what's startling about this is that, we're talking about centuries of establishing, not we're not just, building on a foundation, centuries and centuries of effort and renewal and refresh in a decade has been completely washed away. And I think that's
I
something
think
that
it's been a little more than that. I think we've been dealing with the influx of data and information and resources, whether it was the internet or I don't, you know, more
well, all
material
right,
has
go
been
on then. Yeah,
available to
okay.
you over
Yeah.
the course of time. We've also
Yeah,
seen
go on.
the
Yeah.
scandals and the distrust around our senior leadership, our elected officials, our corporate leadership. That's been happening for decades. This isn't new. It's just accelerating at a faster pace than ever before. And people are have dug their heels in. They've
Yeah.
chosen sides around where they believe truth lives and who owns that credibility.
Yes.
So
Yes. I agree with
One
that.
thing
I
we
do.
one thing we don't get into in the paper per se, and I wanted to chat with you about this today, and maybe this isn't a safe, topic, but can we sincerely say that membership associations can be the stewards of credibility and trust when credentialing and certification have become business models, have become revenue drivers?
Oh, I
Do you
love. Oh my
lose your high
God.
ground?
Yeah, yeah,
Do you
yeah, yeah,
lose your
yeah,
high
yeah.
ground
Your moral
when
authority. Mm-hmm.
you are selling tests, when you are recertifying, when you are charging for CEUs,
Mm-hmm.
when it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a fairly robust driver of your financial sustainability?
Well, now you'll have to guide me in a US context on this, but what I can say in a UK and an EU context is that the arm's length approach to the arm's length model between delivery
Yeah.
and assessment and
Yep.
quality assurance is fundamental. So
Yes. And we
yeah,
use words like firewall,
uh-huh, yeah,
separation of
yeah,
church and state, whatever. That context is there.
yeah.
But again, in an era of skepticism,
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
a consumer and as an association expert who knows that things bleed, and how can we help membership associations regain this position of credibility and stewards of expertise and manage that separation that's required in those veins of certification and credentialing, because there's never been more rules and regulations around it.
True, true. But I
Are
think
associations good at it?
probably not. I don't think they're good at. No, that's not true. I mean, good at what? Sorry, good at
That's not
what?
fair. Good
Good at
at
what?
good at the separation,
Oh, yeah. No, they're good at that. I
the
think they're
governance
absolutely good at that.
of. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I've never been brought into a governance disaster zone where the credentialing of a qualification or standard has been questioned ever. I've never
Right.
come
They
into that. I've
take
never
it
seen
very,
that.
very seriously.
They
I mean,
do
it's
absolutely.
almost the one thing they're best at. They're
I
terrible
th
at managing their own governance and their own boards, but they're
yeah,
great
yeah,
at the protections around and the seriousness with which
yes.
they take these endorsements or these letters after names or these designations of expertise.
But what many organizations are not good at, and this is what I was misunderstanding when I said no, what they're not good at is controlling the narrative.
True.
I think as an industry, as a sector, and this is not unique to membership, this is many different sectors,
Yeah.
many different industries. We're victims of of the diatribe, the populist diatribe, and haven't been very good in taking that on and tackling that and retaking
Yeah.
control of the narrative. One of the things that, in civic society, one of the things that trade associations, membership bodies have always been very good at traditionally is extolling the virtues and the necessity of high quality skills, expertise,
Yeah.
credentials, etc., knowledge standards. But I think latterly, I think probably in fairness to everybody, we've so rocked because whilst I agree with you that probably the build up has been longer than leading up to the last 10 years, but the reality is in the last decade, the speed of technological change in particular
Yeah.
has made I mean, has made this hyperbole, front and center
Right.
and made it almost, we're all reeling from it effectively. So I
Right.
understand why people.
We haven't even used our two least favorite words yet, or letters. We haven't even used our two letters yet. I mean,
The C
AI
word.
in this,
Oh, AI.
I
AI.
can't even trust that the voicemail left on my phone and that voice is from the person that they say they are. So, I
Which is
think distrust will
yeah,
become
yeah,
even greater.
yeah. It's interesting actually. I read and I want to invite them onto the podcast actually later in the year. There was I forget. I'll put it in the show notes, but there was a report published earlier this year talking about in response to AI, what does humanity look
Hmm.
like in the
Right.
workplace? And actually, really interesting, the whole issue around integrity, credibility, emotional intelligence, self-awareness,
Yeah.
way
Oh, yeah.
down in terms of how people are, um, practicing those characteristics.
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
Well,
I
and
think you
trust
raise
will go
that.
down as well. Teachers can't trust that kids did their own homework.
But then does that
People
mean we
don't
should just
trust.
should we just sit back and just let it happen then? Should we just say, do you know what, TAs, trade associations, membership bodies, you know what, you're right. Do you know what? Just sit back, let it wash over you, deal with it if and when there's a problem.
No, I'm of the belief, and I hope this comes to fruition, that the pendulum will swing and the need for authenticity, the need for validation and verification will become that much more important. It is that much more necessary. So, as much as data and technology and automation and robotics and all of those things start to become more normalized, that then the counterweight to that, the counterbalance to that will become more necessary, and a place where associations can provide context, can
Mm.
provide again, verification, can provide
But who pushes that
resources to
pen?
check against.
Who pushes that pendulum back the way? I mean, you're not just saying we just we
I don't know, people who
the
get burned by people who fall for it, people who get burned, people who
yeah.
say yes or buy something or hire someone or believe something that then turns out to not be not be true, not be what it was supposed to be. Aren't those people who have a bad experience the ones that will then push back and expect different?
Yeah, but is that's an inherently negative response because I would argue that,
People
and
don't
I think
change behaviors until they feel
yeah,
pain,
no,
disappointment,
it's
or
true.
cost.
That's true. They don't. But we're not talking about people. We're talking about membership organizations and trade associations. We're talking about a sector, an industry, a global industry. And actually, I think
Okay, okay.
in
So
in moments of
back to my
crisis,
question.
so I'll just finish it. In moments of crisis, we've seen the sector rise up in response and drive back to ensure that we are in a solid footing as possible. I will say the C word during the COVID pandemic. We did see the sector push back and position itself so that we could respond to crisis. I think we are in a crisis of epistemic pollution that is absolutely on the verge of having such vast socioeconomic impacts. I think it's incumbent on the trade association and membership sector to lead on, not just wait for the pendulum to come their way and then push it back. I actually think there's a leadership function here that the sector can adopt.
So I just want to pause here. I am an English major with a degree, but I defer to you on vocabulary at all times.
Oh,
You
I
wrote
wouldn't
this
do
section
that.
of the paper.
I wouldn't do that.
Epistemic pollution. Can we pause on this and can you define epistemic pollution
Fake
for our
news.
audience?
Fake news.
Okay.
It
Okay.
is widespread contamination of the information environment.
Okay.
So it's misinformation, disinformation,
But those two
low
things are
quality,
different.
or exactly that's what I'm saying. Two different things. It's a combination of misinformation and disinformation, low quality or biased narrative that is front and center through any medium that we
Mhm.
are getting our information from,
Yeah.
TikTok through to email to the television to
Yeah.
wherever. Yeah. Yeah.
So, as voices of professions, voices of industry, as stewards of knowledge in thousands, hundreds of thousands of niches and specialties, associations should know how polluted their knowledge environment is.
They should.
And again, misinformation is unintentionally misleading content. They're just wrong. It's old material, whatever it may be. It's rumor. Disinformation
Hmm.
is intentionally fabricated.
Yes.
So, I think important, and you're going to find both of those in your environment.
Mm-hmm.
In the environment of which you are leaders or stewards or the voice of and I think once you see that, once you're you're the red, once you see that amount of misinformation and disinformation increase, it's your responsibility to respond, to provide correction, to provide, whether it's a journal article, whether it's a panel discussion, whether it's a webinar. I mean, isn't this what you're asking these associations to
Yeah,
do, is to,
it is exactly what I'm asking them to do. I'm not just asking, I'm demanding it of them. I'm demanding it of them because I think you can't be sector bodies that position them ourselves around the principles of standards, certification, qualification, ethical governance, talk about public advocacy, public engagement, and then not not take a lead in these issues around, particularly around disinformation.
yes,
I think also there's a piece there, part of the epistemic pollution is low quality, vociferous low quality opinion,
yeah,
which, and again, I speak a lot with boards about, speak a lot with boards and with executive teams about maintaining perspective. And I think we had this conversation maybe on the pod a couple of weeks ago, being able to maintain perspective and recognize that sometimes, yeah, we may be working in an echo chamber and it may not
yeah,
be, it may be quite a low quality echo chamber. So
yeah,
actually,
yeah. Well, and
recognizing that is so important.
we've talked about the challenges of, member feedback. When you're getting qualitative information or even quantitative information, your source matters. Which members are you hearing from? Which are you not hearing from? So I think understanding your own internal knowledge community and what's high quality and what maybe is more populous, is an important self check. But what we're asking, and I think what this white paper does, is it, not just to pat ourselves on the back here, but I think it really summarizes what the challenges are to accuracy and truth, and how we've gotten to be where we are now. The history behind that, some organizations and those case studies that help us see where people have taken the opportunity to stand up for their profession or their sector,
Yeah.
and put that call out for social societal obligation,
Hmm. Hmm.
and elevating what is true, what is accurate. I always tell my clients it's very expensive to undertake a public awareness campaign. You don't have to do it all in one push. This isn't about Super Bowl ads. This is
Yeah.
about
Hmm.
bit by
Hmm.
bit, where you battle at the small scale, at
Hmm.
the op-ed level, at the retort to the blogger, whatever it is, you take each opportunity to correct the record.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
it has to start with that. And then it has to start with, giving our members that credible and authentic platform from which to be the professionals they are.
Because I think absolutely 100%, and we conclude the white paper with, we don't just, yes, you're right, we map out the lead into this, how we've got to where we're at,
Yeah.
and we talk about some really tremendous case studies, both sides of the pond, where organizations have really demonstrated the value and impact, not just to the
Yeah.
professions for whom
Yeah.
they serve, but to the wider communities that their members are in. I
Yeah.
think, and we also map out some really good, some really good ideas on how you
There's
can,
some
as you've
calls to
just said,
action here.
yeah,
There's some things
yeah.
that we want people to hold themselves accountable. And
But I
we can
think
talk about AI and buzz topics forever. This is a larger consequence.
it is because
Um,
I think actually, we've not said, and again, we've not said this in the white paper, but the reality is, at what stage? I mean, I'm talking about, I want to see membership bodies take a position and push back on control the narrative. I also think it's really important that we need to recognize that at what point do members begin to distrust us as a membership organization? At what
hmm,
point do our members begin to be subsumed by this culture and
yeah.
begin to question the very membership organization that we are advocating and extolling as
Yeah.
being necessary for their career
And
success.
there's been some big, nonprofit scandals in the
Yeah,
last,
yeah, yeah.
12 to
Hmm.
24 months, whether it ended in legal action or terminations, or there are some organizations that within themselves are struggling from a deficit of credibility. And this comes on the heels of pushes in DEIA and this all of these things that have changed in the environment in association environment. We still haven't resolved all of our
No,
our
no.
internal behaviors. So yeah, it's not only externally facing, it's internally facing. And I know we talk about ethical governance and standards of operating an organization, whether you're credentialing or certifying or you're simply representing a sector.
Mm,
You have to conduct yourself first in a way that makes you worthy of trust.
yeah, 100%. Love
Um,
that. Love that.
so
Yeah.
I don't, we've teased it. I don't want to give it all away. But I would really love to hear from people, what your members see is happening in your sector, in your profession, in your industry, in the community. I think this even goes down into, our community listservs. How are we managing what's true and not true amongst our members' discussions with
Yeah,
themselves,
yeah,
with
yeah.
each
Really good
other?
point. Yeah, really good point. Yeah, yeah,
So this can
yeah.
this can leach into a lot of areas. I'm interested to hear people's feedback, not only on the larger topic, but where they believe their organization can have a positive impact. Because this will not be a single battle. This will be a long,
Oh,
ongoing,
yeah, yeah.
generational push and commitment to integrity and ethics and accuracy.
This,
So
yeah,
exciting
yeah.
and scary, scary time. But thanks for doing this paper with me.
You're very welcome. What is this, number four in the series?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's number
You're
four. And if I'm honest, I've already drafted number five.
what?
Yeah, but I'll just leave it at that for now. But it won't be long. I've already written number five.
Oh, well, so much for collaboration.
Oh, no, no, no,
Uh,
no. Oh, my God. Do you not trust that I can do this? I can write the first draft. Is that what you're saying? Oh, my God.
I believe in you.
I'm
I
putting it
believe in
out
you.
there. I'm putting
You
it
know
out there
what
right
my
now.
you know what my editing pen looks like. I edit in red. It's mean. I don't think you're allowed to edit in red anymore. I think it's too harsh. I think you're supposed to use like purple or something.
Can I just give a shout out to some of our listeners
Of
who've
course. Where are they from?
our new listeners this week. I just want to just bring, so we've got new listeners from, ooh, Temple Hills, Maryland.
Okay, not too far from me.
Not
About an
too
hour
long,
away.
not too far from where you are. Uh, oh yeah, we've got our regular listeners from Frankfurt. How you doing, guys?
Hi guys.
Yeah. Oh, we've got not too far from where I'm from, Hengoed in Caerphilly in South Wales. Excellent. Nice to hear. Nice to know you're here.
Interesting.
Oh, you'll love this one. Royal Tunbridge Wells. There's a
Wow, is that
place
where your
called
mom lives?
Royal. Nah, not quite. No, they can't afford for my mum to live there. And Dunedin in Otago in New Zealand, way down in the south of the South
Wow, that's
Island.
amazing.
So I think it's
That's
fantastic.
amazing.
More new listeners, tremendous. Listeners, could you do us a favor? If you really like the podcast, can you give us a like on Apple Pods, Spotify Pods, wherever you're picking up the weekly pod? It would help us tremendously if you give us a review and give us a like. That'd be fantastic and much appreciated.
Absolutely.
And if
Because
you
again,
do, I'll give you a shout out
we're
from wherever
competing.
you're from.
We're competing. We are competing in a space too, where it's half
Yeah,
popularity contest, half what you're actually talking about, and
yeah.
so we appreciate the love, we appreciate the listens. Take a look at the white paper. Let us know what you think, and until next time, put your members and your mission first.